It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Hello to all. Welcome to Divas That Care Network. I am Joyce Benning, and I will be your host for the exciting, invigorating, robust lifestyle show today. I want to thank each one of our listeners that have tuned in live and the ones that will be listening on the podcast. I am just so very grateful for each one of you. And I am just really excited today to have with me a returning diva, Lisa Brisse. And we are going to chat about animals and children and their connection. Oh my, is this another one that just touches my heart? Because animals and children together, wow, this is going to be great, listeners. You're in for a treat. So Lisa, could you please introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Sure. So I am the author of the book called The Ride of Our Life, Lessons in Faith, Love, and Wisdom from a Magical Horse. Book 1, The Early Years. It's a series of 4, and this was the first one. And I am an exercise physiologist by trade and wellness heart coach and spinning instructor, but writing is one of those things that's just been innate in me since I was little, and I was fortunate to have this magical 35-year relationship in this physical world with my horse, Little Miss, who passed away in 2017. But she, she's just, as we soon learn, that bodies may, change forms, but the spirit and the love is always there and always lives with us. So she continues to be right here at my side. And, and one of the many, many life lessons that she taught me, of course, is, she just, her example of love and kindness was always so evident in whomever she met, whether it was animal or human, but also, children. Children were really her, children were magnetized to her, and she, in her elderly years that were beyond our riding years, she really took on the role of knowing, like I could feel, that she knew the big job she was giving little kids like their first experience with horses, or she just loved that role when little kids would come out to see her. So it's such a powerful connection, and I think, animals and little children, they come from such a similar vibration. I've always known that since I was a little kid, because I immediately related to them as little kids. It's like I felt like we were kindred spirits, and I'm sure there's probably a lot of kids and people out there who have felt the same thing with animals, no matter what age. So it's a really powerful, connection between animals and children in particular, but humans, of course.
Yes. Well, and like you said, I loved how your horse, it taught the love and kindness, and how she showed the love and kindness to these children, even in her later years, and how they were magnetized to her and her to them. That is just beautiful. I just love that, because it starts at that age, and the children are the animals, they live in the moment. They're enjoying what is happening right now, what is right in front of them.
Exactly. They're just in the eternal moment of now, and that's where, the universal energy is just flowing free. So that's why they all have so much energy, They're plugged in.
Yes, they're plugged into that energy in the moment, and not like us adults that are thinking, oh, I got to be here, I got to be there, this has got to get done, and we're sometimes we have to remind ourselves, let's enjoy the moment. I know my horses do that a lot. They'll remind me, hey, why don't you just enjoy this moment and not worry about what's coming in the next or what you think you have to do after this. Just enjoy being here and being in the moment. It's a true lesson you learn from the animals, I feel, a life lesson.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I always like to, you know, when I was with Little Miss, of course, or we were riding or we were just spending time, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with it, or heard of Abraham Hicks, but they talk about being in the vortex, meaning the vortex being totally in direct alignment with the universal life flow. And being with Miss, and I think being with animals in general, you literally are stepping into the vortex. Like it's you become totally consumed with that vibration. And but like you said, you know, as humans, it can be very easy to let our minds wander and totally miss being in the vortex, which is where it's all happening for us. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes. Oh, that is so true. I just have to share, even last evening, I brought my mare up and had fed him, and I was loving on her and just laying on her with my head and just my arms around her and loving her, and it was just like I was just floating away. It was like I was in a whole different, like you said, a vortex. We were just in a universe together, just sharing each other's energy and love, and it was beautiful. An absolute beautiful experience when you just let yourself go to do that. And I think that's why animals and children can connect so well, in my feeling, because they do. They take that energy right along with that animal, and they're in that vortex and loving every moment of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, kids are, they're not consumed up until a certain age, obviously, with anything other than what's happening right now. And, you know, that's where the magic is in the right now, you know, and that's where all the creativity flows.
Definitely. So, how true. Well, and even with that, some of the other things I always feel animals can teach us is responsibility at a young age. Because if you have an animal and how they rely on you for their food and their water and their love and their care, it is a responsibility to me that you can carry on through life. How is your feeling on all of that?
Oh gosh, you know, I was, you know, fortunate enough. The circumstances were such, it's not like my family were horse people, but they happened to be hippies and musicians living out in the country. And so they played at night, and during the day we were just living off the land. And I say that because the neighborhood family had a pony named Brandy. I was 5 years old, and of course all it took was one ride, my first ride ever, and I was glued to Brandy, and that's all I wanted. And you know, I mean, they literally lived down the road, a half a mile, not even, and I could ride any time, but that wasn't enough for a 5-year-old, of course, who was obsessed. And so I had Mom and Dad, you know, oh, I want Brandy, I want Brandy, I want Brandy. Long story short, I mean, God bless my parents. They, you know, we had the land, and they, on Christmas Eve, 1974, I got Brandy. And, but, I mean, it's like every kid's dream. But my parents were also very clear with me. Of course, being 5 years old, that's pretty young, but they were pretty clear that they were totally supporting me, you know, and taking care of her, but that she most definitely was my responsibility in the biggest way. And so, you know, feeding and taking care of and all of that was just a part of my job, you know, as and so to learn the responsibility of taking care of animals, and especially growing up in a cold weather climate like Minnesota, where, you know, half the year it's freezing. And, and, you know, there were sometimes 30 below, you know, temperature mornings, and they needed to be fed, and we didn't have running water in the barn. And so, you know, I had to, you know, it was, again, my parents helped me, but it was my responsibility in those temperatures to, you know, make sure that they got their water and, you know, their food. And so it was you know, and as I grew up, I remember my grandma kind of always thinking that this was a phase that I would grow out of. And I remember thinking at like 8 or 9 years old, she just doesn't know me. Like, this isn't just for now, this is forever. But yeah, so it just really taught me that, you know, it teaches a child to think about someone other than themselves, you know, and that their life depends on their actions and their love and their commitment. And it's just so, it's that kind of ethic and understanding has just carried over in so many areas of my life, you know, like it's just, I think one of the things that I gained was, you know, when you make a commitment to something, you follow through with it. Like there's just, because, you know, with raising animals, there just wasn't a negotiation, you know, and so, you know, we follow through with commitments as much as absolutely possible. Sometimes we can't, but my point is that it's always, that's like not even a question of, am I going to be wishy-washy on this? No, I'm going to follow through because that was my commitment. And I think that is directly related to, you know, what I learned as a kid, taking care of animals. And it just, it puts things in perspective of like, what do you really want? Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
As a kid,
yes.
You know, what's important? Do you want this, toy, or do you want this pony? You know, a little bit bigger commitment level there.
Yes, it is. And I love the word commitment, because you are committed to them, but in return, their commitment to you is incredible. And what they give back, I mean, it's beyond words, because I was very fortunate and blessed to grow up, too, in the country, and I had horses and dogs and cats and cattle around me all the time. And the love that I got back from them, there was always someone there for me, all the time. I mean, if I needed someone to talk to, or if I felt stressed, or all I had to do was be with the horse or the dog, or they were just there for me all the time. They were totally committed to me also. And it just showed me what true love is. They love you unconditionally. No matter what's going on in your world or what you think, they love you. And I love that about the animals. They don't judge you like us humans have a tendency to judge one another. And I think that is something I learned also at a very, very young age, is how their love just shines through everything. And that is so important. They truly teach you so many life lessons. It's just absolutely incredible with these animals, what they teach you.
Oh my gosh. You know, and they're not even trying to teach it. They just are being it. You know, that's the beauty of it is they are that. And you know, we as humans too, if we just were our authentic selves, you know, we always think that we have to do or be a certain way. And the truth is, we just have to be who we are, you know, and in our authentic self, and that in itself carries a vibration that speaks a truth. And animals, you know, because they just are who they are, they're not trying, they're being who they are, you know, that vibration of authenticity comes through and it resonates with people.
Truly does. Wow. be who you are, because I always say we're each created unique. We don't need to be comparing ourselves to someone else. The animals don't look at who's with them and say, well, why can't I be like them or that? They're just who they are, and they're happy with that. And they, like I said, they just teach you to really be who you are and appreciate and love yourself for who you are, and live from the heart. Just live what was put inside of you, that uniqueness that you have to share with the world. And yes, being around animals, they have truly taught me so much of that. And I always say with my little red healer, my best buddy and friend, he's taught me to live life on faith and not fear. And it's an incredible journey with them.
Mhm. Mhm. Yep. And that's what is such gifts, in so many ways, obviously.
Oh, yes. Yes, it definitely is. And then a little bit too, because like you said, you lost Little Miss back in 2017. And
Yeah.
I agree 100% with you. Their spirit is always with you, whether it's physical form or in the spirit form. How is she still helping you in the spiritual form, since she isn't there to love and hold and be with in the physical form, if I may ask for you to share that with our listeners?
Absolutely. Well, it was interesting, and I forget if I had mentioned this in the first interview, but our connection, our telepathic connection, of course, was, when I realized, I think I told the story of the first ride, I think in 1993, when I literally heard her voice. And but once that was established, like, okay, I am hearing her, there was just kind of this ongoing dialogue. And I remember that when she passed, we lived, I lived in Santa Monica, and she lived 2 hours north in the Santa Barbara area where my mom went.
Right.
And so we were very, we were not with each other every day. I saw her probably every, and so, so our communication was almost more about the, kind of the telepathic communication and just feeling things. But my point in saying that, after she crossed over, I had, God, I was in such a, as you can imagine, I was in such a place of grief, deep grief, and kind of spiraling and not really knowing where do I put my feet, for all of these years, being on the weekends with her, and we had our routine. And when that was gone, it was really just like, whoa, where do I belong? But my point is that I couldn't feel her. And that really scared me, because, and I remember even getting angry. And it's interesting, when bosses or whatever, the emotions that come up, that if we allow them to come up, they aren't necessarily rational, but they are emotions. And I remember a few days after her passing being so angry with her. And then you think, angry, what do you mean? And, it was the little kid in me that, little kids don't necessarily understand the bigger picture. And so the little kid in me was, where is my best friend? And she left me. And all of these years I've known where she is. And now I don't know where she is. And she knows where I am. And I'm here struggling on this planet to survive. And she's just off gallivanting in her herd. Well, how happy, good for her. There was this resentment and anger. I mean, it was just pure little kid feeling. And I became aware of that. And interestingly enough, while that kind of time period was happening where I was just feeling resentful and angry and sad, of course, a lot of my friends and family would reach out to me with stories of her showing up to them in obvious ways, as though, and I was full of that she was like, little Miss was like, okay, my sweet girl Lisa is so wrapped up in her emotion, of course, that she can't even feel that her. So I'm going to go up to as many people around her in the next, couple of weeks with stories that were just like crazy, like inevitable. People were having dreams. And I thought, so I was aware, I'm like, but then I was like, but why is she showing up to them and not me? And it took a month for me to settle in before I literally heard her. I was sitting in my car parked outside my house one day just pondering it, and that's when I got quiet enough to really hear her say, I've been here the whole time. I've been here the whole time. We just, we've done this thing in the physical world where we're not together during the week, but we still are aware of each other's presence. My presence hasn't gone anywhere. It's still here, but you were associating me as that physical being, but now that we've already talked about it, like our beings transcend the physical, and I've always been and it was interesting. I even did a animal communication session with a woman named Sue Hoppel, who she was really instrumental in the last 10 years of my life with Miss and beyond. And I had a session with her a week after Miss passed, and it was uncanny. I was sitting there at my desk in my apartment, and Sue lives in Colorado. I live in Santa Monica. She's never seen my apartment. And she says, Miss is describing to me where you're sitting at a desk in a corner with a window and sunshine. And I'm like, yes. And she says she's wanting you to know that she's right there. When you write, when you look out that window, when you lay your head down, she's right there. And I know you can't, but just know that she's there. So, and then, after that, Joyce, these signs, the undeniable, magical signs just started showing everywhere. And so it's become so almost everyday life now that I'm just like, oh, hi, Miss, so it's a journey, but, it's, we gotta allow ourselves, humans, to go through the process of whatever our process is, our process, our grieving process.
Exactly.
The one thing I wanted to for sure share in regard to, how animals and children are so connected, and especially how, little Miss in her older years, when she really took on the role of wanting to be, like this experience for little kids. I will never forget, it was actually in her last couple of weeks that she was in her body. And my best friend Jen has a little girl named Allie. And Allie at the time, I think, was like 6. And ever since Allie was little, they would come and visit Missy. They were an hour away. And Allie called Missy Horse. So Missy Horse, Missy Horse, Missy Horse. And every time she come, she'd want to ride Missy Horse. And we got some really cute pictures of her, this little tiny little tyke sitting on this big white horse, and Miss just walking down the road. But a couple of weeks before Miss passed, she had been losing a lot of weight, and, her time was coming. And Allie said to Jen, I want to ride Missy Horse. And I remember Jen saying, oh, sweetheart, not feeling so well today. But she said we could Josh was a Palomino that was little Miss's companion at the end. And we said, Josh will let you ride him, and at first she cried. But then she said, okay, well, you would have not believed what happened with Miss when we put Allie on Josh. Miss, in her little feeble, followed around the pasture and was whinnying, it, as though to say, wait a minute, no, that's my job. That's my job. Like, she's so aware of what was happening here and why Allie wasn't on her back. She just followed them around the pasture. And, I mean, we were all so moved and touched that was deliberate about that. She knew.
Yeah, she knew.
So, at the end, we allowed Allie just to sit on her back for, just a picture. And that was the last picture of anybody sitting on Little Miss. And I always thought, what an honor that I was the first one and Allie was the last one to close the bookend. Yeah.
And, that is such a beautiful, touching story, because that just shows the connection that Little Miss had to the little girl. I mean, it wasn't just a one way. It was both ways. Little Miss loved her just like she loved Little Miss. That's just incredible.
Totally. And a few years prior, I had made Allie a picture book for Christmas of her and Missy Horse and my Josh. So I made this little picture as a Christmas thing, and on that day when Missy was under the weather, Allie brought that book, and I have video footage of her standing under the tree with Miss, reading that book, and her the picture, and Miss was putting her nose up to it. I mean, it was just the most, it's like, there is just magic here. I mean, there is just magic. And the children, they just get it,
Yeah. Yes, they do. And the horses know that, too. That is, what a beautiful, beautiful story. I love that. That's just incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is just awesome. How beautiful.
Well, you're welcome, Joyce. Yeah, thanks for letting me share. I just love that story.
Yes. And I'm sure Little Miss is approval is all over it of sharing it with our listeners today. I can just feel it. She is beaming. Her spirit is beaming how that story was shared. That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
Well, she's
Lisa,
just so much, and that's,
pardon?
she is so much love, and so she just loves sharing the love.
Yeah. You can definitely tell that, and just hearing that story. Wow. That is just incredible. Well, Lisa, this interview has gone so quickly. You have shared so much today. As just beautiful, of animals and children and their connection. What is a final tip that you would like to leave with our listeners today as we close this beautiful interview today?
Gosh, I guess I would say that if you have children and your children have interest in animals, in whatever way, allow them to be with them. It's not something you have to, you don't have to get a dog or a cat, but ways that you can get your children around animals is, it's the best thing for them, because they do find kindred spirits. But also, that it doesn't matter what our age is, animals touch us no matter what our age is, no matter how much of a public persona we put on that makes it look contrary to animal lover, quote unquote. That animals they pierce right into the heart, and they bring that childlike spirit to us as well. So they're just healing, period. And so be around as possible.
Yes. How beautiful, Lisa. What a beautiful tip to leave with them. Yes. If your children have the interest, let them be around animals because they will learn life lessons that will be with them forever. Oh, that is beautiful, Lisa. Thank you so much for sharing. You and Little Miss, thank you so much, both of you, for sharing today on Robust Lifestyle Show. I loved it. It was beautiful, very beautiful and touching.
Well, thank you for having me once again. And, I got lots of things I love to talk about. So thank you for letting me share.
Oh, you are so welcome, and I definitely would love to have you back on again, Lisa, because this was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. You and Little Miss are welcome anytime on Robust Lifestyle Show. All right, thank you. And I want to thank all of our listeners for listening to this absolutely amazing, touching interview with a beautiful, beautiful diva, Lisa Brisse, and her beautiful horse, Little Miss. Please, please share this show with all your family and friends, and check out all the other hosts and their shows on divasthatcare.com as they interview other women from around the world. And have an absolutely fantastic day. And remember to give your animals that great big extra hug and share your love with them. And like Lisa said, if your children have a desire for animals, try to find a way that they can connect with them, because it will be life lessons that they will never forget. They are just beautiful. And until we connect again on Robust Lifestyles, stay strong and healthy.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.